Hey everybody, welcome back to the Audiomo podcast. It is Jim here, and I have with me my trusty co-host, Mr. Dave Nelson, and tonight we're only going to be sticking to one topic. Dave sent me a video about a new product, and I didn't know that Dave had actually gone ahead and had purchased and had already talked with somebody about this product and tried it out. So I want to hear his feedback on it, introduce it to you guys, and also just, get the overall thoughts. So before we get started, Dave, how are you doing? I know it seems like I cut you off there.
Oh, no, you're good. I'm doing okay. I'm a little stuffy, but it's the kiddo and daycare thing, right? Like we're always kind of sick. So, but I feel fine, just a little stuffy. So, if I sound sick, that's why.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's that time of year, and yeah, I've been the same way in and out, but yeah, you fight through it, and it is what it is. So the product that we want to talk about today is called the Elk Live, and you sent me a video by somebody named Leon Todd, who I'm sure many people who would follow this channel would probably know who he is. Really cool guy. I watched the video about a half hour before we started this tonight, and in case you've never heard of it before, I'm going to give the very general synopsis, and then I'm going to let you dig into the nitty-gritty of it because you have one. Basically, this thing has an Ethernet port on it as an interface, and you can play with no latency, in theory, with somebody basically on the same continent with you. And it seems like a really, really cool idea for people. I think if this had come out right when the pandemic happened, they wouldn't have been able to make enough of them to keep them in stock. But even still, when you consider rehearsal space and moving and the traveling and all that stuff needed to get people in the same room, I think there's definitely a spot for it. But Dave, tell me what your thoughts are so far after using it.
It's tough, right? Like, I was a skeptic, and I think for exactly the reason that you said, if it had come out right in the pandemic, like, I probably would have tried it. Like, we tried a bunch of different options, right? Like, there was a few online options that promised to have some latency-free stuff or whatever, and a bunch of them were either, if you bring your own server, we can handle it or whatever, which, like, renting a server is super expensive,
Yeah, that's not cheap.
especially one with the ability to do what they're asking. Or it would be like availability on their server, and it never really worked out, and it was just kind of a big pain. So the closest thing we got was like audio movers, which isn't even relatively close, but it just sends like high quality signal from a session from someone else, so we could kind of like write that way, but nobody was anywhere near no latency video and audio quality, right? So it's definitely interesting, and the reason we gave it a shot is because our bass player lives on the Cape, and I'm in Connecticut, so it's about like an hour 45, on a reasonable day for him to get here to practice. So while the Elk is very expensive, it's $350. And then it's a subscription service on top of that of $15 a month or $160 for the year. For him, it's like it's worth it in the gas money just to make it out here. And for us, it's like, as it is right now, we do practices, full band practices with him every other week, right? And this would make it so that it's like everybody's just got to have a free evening and we can do it whenever, right? So that's kind of the idea of why we decided to go for it. Normally, I'm not a big fan of grabbing products like this early in the kind of like life cycle. And you can tell it's super early, and like I joined up with their Discord, and there's like 60 people in there, which is crazy for, like a product like this. But it's a great idea, and we got it in. We're super excited to try it out. It's super weird. Like it doesn't plug into your computer. It just plugs into your Ethernet cable, and then it is on your network, and it finds it through the network, which I guess must just be the way that they're addressing the low latency, that it's basically just talking to it as a network device. Right? So it's just plugged right into my router, or I have a mesh here that it's plugged into basically, and I go onto the site and it says, hey, your bridge is connected. You get two inputs and a headphone out. There is an ADAT on it, but the ADAT isn't working right now. That's like coming as part of the upgrade plan, which is a little shitty, but honestly, I think we can make it work with the two, right? Like, you just have to sum everything in a mixer before you get to the two inputs. It also has MIDI too, which I'm not sure if it works or not, but it's a TRS MIDI input, which is really weird. I've never seen like a 3.5 millimeter. So I had to get an adapter. I got that coming in the mail. We'll see if that works or not. I don't know. It's definitely an interesting little product, but as I'm sure everybody's wondering, is it actually latency free, right? So I kicked it up with Dan when he also bought one and I bought one. We put it together. We got into a session. We clapped, to a rhythm, and he clapped along with me, and then I went out of Pro Tools into the front of this, which actually is one of the nice reasons that it is network only and not on the computer. So like I can just run my rig like nothing has changed, right? Like only the website sees it. So like I don't have to like worry about interfaces talking to each other or anything because it's not plugged into the computer. So it's not Pro Tools doesn't see it as an interface or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could just run Pro Tools out of my interface into it as an input, and then I played drums through that, and he played through it, and I played through it, and for the most part, it was fine. I had like these little hiccup moments where he was clearly like a quarter of a beat behind, but like then it would catch back up and it would be fine. Like it was just moments, I definitely think if you were, I don't know, I think if you were trying to do like vocals, like a bunch of vocals, you might notice it more, and maybe if you were like two drummers playing together or something. Like I think if you were getting into really, really, really precise stuff, you would probably notice, but I think for like him playing bass to us, it's probably going to be fine, right? And like everything I've seen in the Discord from everybody else who's been using it, they've all been fine. They've all been, latency free. Everybody's been jamming with each other. I mean, it's entirely possible it's 60 people who work for the company who are just talking it up. I kind of doubt it. I mean, but I don't know, man. I think if there's a little bit of issue with it, but it gets us to practice more, it's kind of worth it, If it's not, I'm totally going to turn around and return the thing because $350 is ludicrous. But I don't know. I'm pretty excited about the idea that it's possible that we could do online practice,
Yes, I have a few questions.
Okay.
Now, I've read in the brief time that I did do my little research on this that this technically also doubles as an interface. So if you don't have it plugged in through Ethernet and you just connect it to your computer through the USB, will Pro Tools recognize it?
I haven't tried that, but I believe so. It has a USB-C out on the back, and I can't imagine why it wouldn't, but I haven't done that yet. If that's what they're saying it does, I believe them, but I can't speak personally for it.
Okay, because I feel like if it does that, it's not as bad of a deal.
Right.
Because if you got to think about what else is in that price range as far as other interfaces go.
Yeah.
If it has decent converters to it, and obviously you're not going to get top tier preamps or Nutrix circuits with something like that, but if it will actually do the job of say like a Focusrite 18i8 or a 2i2 or something like that, I don't think that's a terrible price for $350, $360. Just call it $350 to make it easy. But there's a few other things that I'm just not sure on, and I'm not even sure you'll know the answer to this because this would really apply to something that I would want to do should I pick up one of these and work with somebody like you where we do live streams and stuff like this together, or potentially for somebody who wants to give lessons. If you wanted to not have it specifically, because you say when you do the video, it comes up on their servers, on their website, that it's nothing on your end, right?
Yeah.
So if you wanted to restream that, would that be a big, gigantic deal to do that? Because if your computer's not recognizing it and everything's based on their cloud, I don't know.
I mean, I think the only way you can maybe get it, well, so two things. To your first point about it being $350 and being an interface, I agree with you. Plus, it has the plus of having ADAT. So if it works as an interface and it has ADAT in, a input interface with ADAT in at $350 I think is a pretty good deal. I mean, like I don't think the Focusrites have ADAT in until you get into at least a 4-channel in, which are I think probably a little bit more expensive than this, but don't quote me on that. But I know the 2i2s don't have ADAT in, so I do think it's worth it from that perspective that it is like if this was your only interface, cool. I kind of doubt that that'll be any of the first kind of people who are buying this. That it's specifically for somebody who's like, we've tried to do this every way possible and nothing has been low latency enough, so we're going to buy a product that'll do it, right? But either way, it is nice to know that it is not a useless product if not connected to the internet, right? Secondary. So I do know that they have expressed, I read it a bunch in the Discord, that they are working on trying to figure out the live stream version of it, right? Because I think that's their ideal, is right for them to be like, okay, there's a band of people who are all across the globe jamming together up on Facebook Live, and everybody's going like, oh my God, how is this possible? And then they sell, tons of the units or whatever, right? So I'm sure that at some point there will be a way to do that. That being said, like I'm a big fan of MKBHD, who's like a tech YouTuber, and his golden rule of thumb is never buy a product for what it can do, only what it does do. And so I wouldn't buy it banking on that. If it does it eventually, great. I wouldn't expect it to do it now though, because it doesn't do it. I think the way you could get around it would be maybe by screen recording, possibly. It is. Yeah. I mean, it's cool that the video and the audio are synced. Like the video doesn't even have any latency, which is really nice. The mixing end of it is really kind of cool. Like you can mix in and out everybody else's signals and your own signals and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you were clever with a screen recorder and going out into your own device before it came back to your headphones, I'm sure you could do it now, right? And I'm sure that in the future they'll have a better way to do it. But I think you could do it if you had to.
Okay, and I just want to be informative to somebody who might be watching this, might not know a lot about interfaces or things like that. There's a lot of information that has been thrown around, a lot of words that have been thrown around. When we say the word ADAT, when a device has that ability to it, it basically allows you to connect another device that has its own preamps to it to kind of expand the amount of inputs that you can use to record, or in this case to connect so you can stream with other people at once. So that actually can be a big deal. If you're just a guitar player, it's not something you're going to have to worry about, especially in an application like this. But if you're talking about setting up with a drummer specifically who is not using electronic drums, or you're not doing what Dave said and using a mixer, which would mean all of the microphones, say you have two over the top of the drums themselves called the overheads, one on the kick, one on the snare, just really basic 4 mic setup. Those would have to go into a mixer, and then the 2 outputs from the mixer would have to go into the 2 from the actual elk, so to speak. So I know that's a lot to take in, but just when we say these things, I know sometimes some people might get confused, and it's all a learning thing, and anytime we can help people out, I think it's important to clarify this. Yeah. So the one thing that you said, going back to the kind of the streaming and the stuff like that, obviously you can screen capture and screen record it, because that's what Leon did in his video when he was doing it with his drummer. So I know it can do that, and that's not something that I don't know. I feel like that's cool if you're doing it and you want to post it after the fact, but if you want to do it live, I feel like if you're going to charge this $160 a year, the subscription fee, that better come with a really good platform for it, for 2 reasons. First of all, just for the consumer, for us, that's easy. That means that we go right to you. We log into your server, we could stream on your site, and we're all good. And then maybe there's a key that you can put into YouTube so it automatically connects via that. No problems. The second reason why I think it is really important for them to do this has nothing to do with us and everything to do with them. Then it becomes all proprietary, and they're going to generate revenue based on how many people come and visit their site. So all that CPM and all the data usage and all that, that's great. That can drive advertisers to their site for different, musical products, anything from microphones to do the stuff to a lighting kit so that you look good while you do it. It's endless at that point. So I feel like that is a opportunity. I'm not going to say it's a missed opportunity, because they're so early on from what you're telling me and from what I read. But if anybody from Elk is listening, yeah, you should do that. You should definitely do that, and you should be the first to do it.
I think that they definitely know for sure, right? And there's no way that they're not, they're not like aiming towards at least something in that realm, right? Like there's no way that live streaming is not, probably, somewhere next on their priority list, right? But for them, obviously, they're clearly trying out a proof of concept here, where they're sort of saying like, okay, we're going to start the first solve here is, and arguably the much easier solve from a technology standpoint, how do I connect like 4 or 5 people and then just with each other, right? Versus like, how do I connect 4 or 5 people with thousands of other people on the internet, right? Like that's a much bigger ask, and they still have to do the first part anyway, right? I mean, realistically, if it were me too, like connecting the 5 people is the hard part, because connecting 1,000 people after, to watch through streaming or whatever, like the latency doesn't even matter, right? Like I can be on a minute delay, nobody watching gives a shit, right? So the technology aspect of that part is not that difficult. It's just, how do I then funnel these all together video streams afterwards to another direction, right? So I definitely think that they're going to get there. But, you know, in the meantime, they're solving the big thing that everybody was looking for during the pandemic, which was, how do I sit in my house and jam with my friend and not have it be a horrible experience? And so far it seems okay. Like I said, we tried it out. I have not put it through its paces. We have a practice scheduled for tomorrow, and we are gonna, so my drummer will be here, I'll be here, we're feeding everything in through the mixer going into the elk, and then Dan will be at his place, and you know, we'll see how it goes. Luckily for us, like, we already play with headphones and stuff for practice and for live, so like the transition there isn't that difficult. I could definitely see how people who are not used to practicing this way would be like, it's weird not being in the same room and having to play through headphones and do all that stuff or whatever. But it's pretty cool. Like, you get on the site, you know, obviously every one of them has two inputs in, right? So like I hook up two inputs, I can see my two inputs, I can see Dan's two inputs, and I can mix each of them individually, which is really cool. Like, everybody gets their own private mix, and you know, Dan can mix his four that he sees however he wants. And you know, ultimately, like, it would be great if Matt could even buy one himself too, and he'll be, you know, doing drums at his place, and then all three of us can be separate. In the meantime, you know, we're going to do the two of us here, and that should probably make it go a little bit smoother. But you know, Matt lives 20 minutes away from me as opposed to Dan living the hour 45. So, you know, it makes more sense for us to be able to get together. But anyway, point is, the ADAT stuff's super cool. Yeah, you're right. Definitely we should have explained that from the get-go. But what'll be really cool about that, right, is like, so like you said, ADAT allows you to add on channels, right? So up to 8 channels, right? So you have 8 channels plus the 2 you've already got. So that gets you 10 inputs. And I'm assuming what they're trying to figure out is bandwidth, right? Like how to get 10 channels of audio with no latency over to somebody else, right? But like, think about how crazy that'd be, right? Like, I could get a full mic drum set and guitars and vocals, you know, like efficiently full mic drum set, you know, and then everybody gets their own mix of that too, right? Like, they can be like, you know, oh, I don't need so much kick, or I don't need so much snare, or whatever, and they can do that. Super cool concept. Like I said, never buy a product for things it's promising it's going to do. So I wouldn't, if you're hoping for that, I would not buy it for that. But again, that's sort of mitigated by just a mixer before the elk, which we're already doing anyway with our live rigs. So I don't know. I'm still kind of skeptical about it. Like, when we ran the test the other night, and like he was getting off from me, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is gonna work, you know. And then we were like, all right, here's the ultimate test. Like, we're gonna play a chunk of one of our songs, and we'll both sing along to it. And like, that didn't go that smoothly because, you know, that being said, Dan's not really like a singer. Like, we've never done that before too, so it's definitely like kind of just weird. So I who knows, you know, man. I don't know. I might come back in a week and be like, I hate the thing and I returned it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
All right, Dave, if you could do me a favor, if you could just screen record some of this practice tomorrow. Not all of it, but if you could just screen record some of it, because all it will take is like 30 seconds or so to see, like, basically how it's going to look for, like, the people that might want to know if they bought one of these, what they could expect as far as their own visual user experience, and then also how it sounds as far as everything kind of stacking up together, because that's going to be important. I mean, ideally, I would like to hear it where the drummer is not with you, because that, to me, that's going to be the trick, is getting the drums in. But, I mean, that's a pretty cool idea. But I'd love to follow up with you more on that. And also, if you could test it as a standalone interface to see if that could work. Because if it can do the 2 birds with 1 stone, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'll take a piece back. I'm also worried about it stacking up as well. I definitely think that, you know, we heard some, like, weird audio artifacts, like, momentarily, you know, as things were going, you know, like you do on any kind of, even Skypes, that happens sometimes too. Yeah. You know, so it happens so quickly that I think, like, you'll get used to it and you just breeze through it, and whatever, it's, you know, you're just jamming, so who cares? But I am worried when it's everything running together and it's loud and you're running through headphones and, you know, all that kind of stuff, like, how interfering is it going to be? But yeah, I'll do my best to see if I can record some of it, and yeah, I'll report back, because I do think if it works, it's pretty cool, right? Like, the concept that you could be like, anybody who has one of these things, you could just be like, hey, let's jam, and on a moment's notice, just do that. Like, that's cool, you know? But, you know, lots of services have made this promise before, so we'll see.
All right, fair enough. Well, I don't know. There's not much more to add to it without beating a dead horse, I don't feel like, Dave.
I don't think so. I mean, I will say, I think that the company's very cool. They're being pretty transparent about the stuff that they're doing. They're really inviting a ton of like user interaction, which I generally think is a good thing, especially in this time of launch with their product. So like, I want to give them all the benefit of the doubt possible. From a design standpoint, I think the design's really great too. Like they clearly have decent people working on this stuff. So, but that's all I can say without, lots more time behind it, I guess.
I'm only laughing because I'm like, did they send you
They really
this
didn't.
for free?
They really didn't. I'll show you the receipt if you want. They really didn't.
I know. Well, you're not really a YouTube guy anyways. You come on here like once a week or so, but it's not like you have a channel or anything like that. Yeah. I just the way you're doing it is just like, I really like the guys. I really like the company. I believe in them.
I think we talk a lot of shit on this podcast, and I think it's a good thing to like when you see decent stuff to, point it out. And, I think that they're going about this the smartest way that they can. Right. And I mean, like, we've talked plenty of shit about companies who do it the wrong way. So,
Dave, no. I'm proud of you. You're not catching it. I'm proud of you. I always mention really good companies. Yeah. I talk about the ones that are super good to me, and I make it a point to just drive the point home of why I love them so much, despite not being paid for them. So to see you doing this, I'm smiling because I'm like, oh, Dave's not calling something terrible. Like, granted, you have been like, yeah, it did have its moments. I don't know if I trust it, but still, overall, this is very positive. This is a step in the right direction.
Growing as a person. Look at that.
All right, but I think that we're gonna try and keep this just to this one topic tonight. There are a few things I want to talk to Dave about, and part of the reason that Dave and his band are really looking and moving rather towards getting into shape as a unit. They're almost ready to release. I think it'll be within the next 2 weeks. It'll be on Spotify.
No, 2 weeks is when we're starting the campaign. So I think 2 weeks is when the campaign starts. So I think a month after that, first single will happen. Second single, a month and a half after that. I think we're shooting for November. I think will be the release. If I remember the schedule properly, yeah.
But about a month from now, people will be able to hear the first single in its full mix and mastered.
I think month and a half, something like that. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we'll talk about that more as we get there. I just found this to be very appropriate for that because that's an important thing when you're getting ready to release a record. That means you're going to be playing a few shows. Hopefully, you're going to be playing a few shows. So you got to get things working in order. And it's nice to know that there are companies like Elk who are addressing the situation of people who are grown-ups like us. And, we have other responsibilities. So sometimes you move away from people and you still want to keep things going. And it provides an option. But that's where I'm going to wrap this up tonight. Thank you for letting me know about this. I had no idea this thing existed until you sent me the text saying, I need you to look this up. And I didn't know you bought one until, 5 minutes before we started.
Yeah. I all the stuff I saw about it was commercials, right? Except for Leon's video when I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. See somebody actually try it. So yeah, I think as much honest opinion as we can get about it is good.
Cool. Yeah, no, and I'm excited to see if you do something. Maybe I'll just do a little quick filler thing for them and just let them know how it goes because it's always good to get these companies' feedback too. And yeah, we'll go from there. But yeah, that's where we're gonna end this tonight. Thank you all for watching, and yeah, we kept this short and sweet and to one topic. I tried really hard not to bring up the Gibson Goddess because I know how jealous Dave is. We'll do that another time. Thanks for checking it out, and we will see you on the next video. Take it easy.